right, so the first section we really want to focus on is the familiarization phase. I really think that this is the most important step. So many individuals, like I said before, really read about this. They hear it from their friends, family, and they want to just dive right into it without really knowing anything. As with any topic, you should really educate yourself on the topic first before getting involved, especially when it involves money. So that's why this is kind of the initial step, and I think the most important. So I am going to mention, like if you've been in the trading space at all, if you've kind of been involved, and if you've been reading it all, you probably heard a lot of these things, such as like some of the cliches that I use. But I really do think they are useful. To kind of be, have the validity in the space and to kind of like understand it, you really need to know the jargon. And a lot of that jargon is rather cliched at this point. But for the novice, I really do think that it's important to learn. The first and foremost is don't invest anything that you are not willing to lose. Crypto is extremely volatile and entirely speculative. So you just have to understand that if you wake up the next morning and a company is at zero and your entire investment is gone, that could actually happen. Much of this space is entirely unregulated. It really is kind of the Wild West, if you will. So you need to be sure that any money that you intend to invest, there is the possibility of a high upside and gain, and that's probably why a lot of individuals are here, because they've heard the vast amount of money people are making. But kind of on the flip side, there's also a significant amount of money that can be lost very quickly. So just be aware of that. Another kind of cliche is that the market can stay irrational much longer than you can stay solvent. So it's like just because you think the price is going to go up, at some point it has to go up. You'll kind of get out of your position. It doesn't necessarily have to. You could go to zero. You could have to pay your rent. You could have bills that come up before the price goes up on whatever you're invested in. That kind of ties into this maintained perspective. A lot of individuals have recently gotten involved in the crypto space in the last 2 to 3 months, and the only thing that they've kind of seen is a bull market, where the price continually goes up and up and up. If you wait long enough, that whatever coin that you purchase will go up and higher in price from what you bought it in. But that's not really entirely true. A lot of individuals who've been in the space for a long time can tell you, Bitcoin had a couple of year bear market where the price just kept dipping lower, lower, lower. So really maintain that perspective. Just because you previously had prices doing well does not mean that that's kind of a future indication of what's going to happen. All right. So now on to kind of the second part of familiarization phase. A lot of individuals use technical analysis. We're going to go into that a lot more in our advanced course. We really just kind of want to briefly touch on that. I also wanted to mention that in our advanced course, we're going to go into a lot more detail, whereas here it's just kind of a brief overview of the knowledge that you need to kind of be successful in this space. I'm going to give you a lot of links here, a lot of things that you can read. And this is basically going to be a consolidated version of kind of what I've learned in the last 4 years. But not necessarily all of the information I've learned, just kind of how I've gone about learning it. So that's the intention of this course, is to kind of give you those links, give you that resources and opportunities so that you can go ahead and learn it yourself. So the first and foremost is kind of that technical analysis. The definition is financial analysis that uses patterns in market data to identify trends and make predictions. TA is extremely important. You'll kind of hear these two sides of things where some people don't necessarily think that technical analysis is as relevant. They trade more on like kind of psychology and sentiment of the market. And then some other people say that no, sentiment, is just noise, where you really like need to follow these patterns, and that technical analysis is really kind of get you there. I think that most traders would agree that there's some kind of combination of the two, that markets aren't necessarily rational, that they have some sentimental and emotional aspects to it. So I think that's kind of important to understand. And we'll get into a little bit more about trading style and how you kind of want to mix or combine those two, based on your findings or kind of your understandings of the market. I really do recommend the site Baby Pips, a link below. You can click on it. It is intended for Forex trading, so obviously, don't take that as kind of gospel. Crypto markets are extremely different from Forex, and Forex extremely different from crypto. But I do think that it is a valuable resource when you're trying to learn basic things such as, how to read candles on a chart, or how to like read basic kind of just charting in general. So if you're kind of interested in that, interested in the technical analysis and just reading charts in general, I would highly recommend going to that site. And then as far as kind of how to learn to talk the talk, I post this link to TradingView, and it's actually like a chat on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. Let me preface this with that this is going to have a ton of noise. Anyone can join this chat and say whatever they want. So if you go in there and you see somebody saying that, some cryptocurrency is going to zero or some cryptocurrency is going to the moon, that is definitely not actionable trading advice. What I do think is interesting is if you kind of go on there and you read the comments and you kind of see what people are posting, it can be very interesting how quickly you can kind of learn things. One of the benefits to this site as well, from like a technical analysis perspective, is that a lot of people post charts. These aren't necessarily going to be great charts. You'll see some very, very bad charts. Until you kind of know like what is good and what is bad, it can be kind of confusing. But it is really a great place to kind of immerse yourself in this technical analysis, in this kind of trading talk, and just get like a lot of very motivated people who've been involved in this space for a while. But like I said, be very cognizant of who is making good calls, who are making bad calls, who kind of have a vested interest in a coin doing well, and who kind of are just trolling in general. So there are some individuals who kind of paid to access the platform. They have pro next to their name. Don't necessarily think that they are actually pros. The pro just simply means that they paid a monthly amount to kind of access to additional charting data or to be able to kind of like post more charts or some other features on that platform. So kind of be aware. It might be a way of identifying somebody who's kind of in it for the long haul, who's very serious about trading, but it does not mean that they are professional, and first, like obviously it doesn't mean that they are right. So just be very aware of that. As you're on this platform and on this chat, you'll kind of see some individuals who make some very good calls, who are consistently good at trading, but realize that they're only correct until they're wrong. There's been some really good traders who are great at trading bull markets, but then when the market goes bear, when prices are going down, they don't really know how to trade that. So just kind of be cognizant that, you might be following somebody who makes a correct call for a month in a row, like 1 or 2 months in a row, but then after that, they can make some very poor calls. But in saying that, I think it is useful to follow some individuals who are kind of more educated and have more knowledge in the space, and then you can kind of grow your own understanding of the market and your own trading techniques from that. It's kind of the whole fake it until you make it mentality. You could have 2 or 3 individuals that you follow and kind of make a composite of your own that is like relates to your understanding of the market and that you think works best for your trading style. To continue on with this familiarization phase, if you're a kind of a programmer or anything technical, you kind of understand you need to set up your kind of dev environment. For this, it's like a trading environment. You really have to kind of set up the tools so that you can get the knowledge and information that you need, and just be very aware quickly of what's going on in the space. I recommend 2 applications just for when you're on the go to kind of continually be aware of what's happening with the price of crypto in general. The first one being CoinCap. It lists a bunch of different crypto caps by their market cap. We can go into that a little bit later on. But it's a great way of kind of getting to know what's going on, continually tracking your investments, and just kind of seeing the general movements. The second one is Blockfolio. I do want to preface this with the fact that I believe it was last week, it was kind of announced that they were monetizing users' data. So anything that you put in this app could maybe possibly be sold to a third party, which is concerning for a lot of people from a privacy standpoint, and that's definitely understandable. I personally don't necessarily use it for my exact numbers. I don't really have it attached to any identity. I don't have it attached to any real numbers, so I'm not overly concerned with it. But it is something to be aware of if you do choose to use it and you are concerned with the security aspect. That being said, I think it's kind of interesting that you could put your trades in, as you make them. I really do suggest, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like doing it, they want to dive right into it, but I kind of suggest paper trading just to kind of be aware of, you can kind of visualize the trade that you make and like the loss that you take or the gain that you make and see if you're kind of happy with your trading technique or if it works in general. Obviously that isn't really a prediction or a really good representation of how you're going to do in the future, but it is a good place to start to kind of have a dry run before you dive into it. And with Blockfolio, it's kind of interesting that you can track those trades, and it makes it very easy to say, I traded on this day, I sold this amount, I bought this amount, and it has a very nice representation of kind of like what the net gains or net losses are from that. In general, I think it's very important to kind of understand the market. There are a lot of things that you really have to be aware of, going into it. There are little kind of intricacies that are very important to know. There's just definitely some common rules that you kind of want to be aware of. Like a few of them, like why are alts often following the price of Bitcoin? And we can get into that a little bit later, but it kind of goes into the fact that most of them are represented by Bitcoin. They don't have a USD pairing, so the price isn't represented in USD. So when Bitcoin price falls, so does the altcoin price, because altcoins are represented by the Bitcoin price, if that makes sense. But we are going to get into that a little bit later, and we dive into that really deeply in the advanced course. And then as far as like what times large movements happen, that's kind of really important. We have a few links that we can send out that are basically like future settlements, you know, or like when China wakes up or when some other countries wake up, or they're kind of prime time for trading. So it's kind of important to be aware of those. You know, what is going to be a catalyst for a large price movement? You don't want to be in a position and then at 2 or 4 a.m. All the price action is happening. I know a lot of traders who have almost reversed hours because, you know, in the past, China has led a lot of these price movements. So it's been very important to kind of be awake at night and or like set alarms or just kind of be able to kind of participate in whatever price action happens late at night.